Now, sometimes on this show, I bring you extraordinary stories of people from our local communities, and you never know what someone is going through, and some people are fighting internal battles that take an immense amount of strength to overcome. Now, I am joined in the studio now by someone whose story I have caught glimpses of, mainly from other interviews he's done, and also his TEDx talk. And it's a story that might trigger some of you, as we're going to be discussing things like physical and sexual abuse, alcohol, drug addiction. So if that's something that you are not up for listening to at this moment in time, then you might not want to listen to this bit. But let me introduce now my guest, Kent-based psychotherapist, public speaker and campaigner, Saf Buxy. Hello.
Hi, Rena. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you here in the studio. So, Saf, there's a lot about you that I would like to talk about. Am I right in saying, though, is this accurate in saying that you've been through hell and back?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I'm very grateful, and, you know, that might be funny for some to hear, but I've had a journey. I have a past. I've endured trauma, but I'm here. I'm here today, and that's living proof that transformation is possible. Even when life seems destined for destruction, for chaos. Mm-hmm. I came into recovery 10 years ago. I was trapped in the cycle of addiction, violence, and it took over my life, really. I came out of a 33-year addiction to alcohol, 15 years to cocaine, 17 years to cannabis, and 5 years to crystal meth. And also gambling was a big part. I know you had a good friend of mine on not so long ago, and his main addiction was gambling, but I had the whole package, and it not only destroyed myself, but it destroyed my whole family and anyone who came in my way, really. I was in a very dark place for many a year, and it all started from boarding school.
Well, I was going to ask you, how old were you when it started? How old were you when you went to boarding school then and you know, got into the...
I could go back before then slightly quick. I mean, I was adopted at birth. I was orphaned at birth and adopted more or less immediately by a wonderful South Asian couple in the East End of London. I was born in Bradford, but I never got to see my birth family, so I don't know a lot about them. And I do know through my studies and through my research thereafter that did play a big part in the way things panned out. But at 11, I was sent to boarding school by my parents, school in Surrey, in a wonderful area in a village called Frensham, near Farnham. And I was 11 years old, and I was there for 6 years, and literally every day throughout those 6 years I encountered abuse, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, sexual at times, emotional. I endured that every day of my life for 6 years, from the age of 11, so 11 to 17, and it was hard. It was really, really hard, and the only thing that got me through it was alcohol, and that's when my alcohol addiction started at the age of 11.
Now, did you speak to anybody about things that you were going through at that time? No. Did you tell your parents?
No, in the 80s, so this is 1983, there was a massive code of silence. It was ingrained in us. We don't say anything, we don't do anything, and if we did, we got it worse. And you were made to look weak if you did disclose, or if you snitched or sneaked, or these are the words that were used in the 80s. So, no. And I wasn't the only person who endured abuse in that school. A lot of other young children did, and it was the same for them as well. You just keep your mouth shut and just take it as a man. So
it was just a case of enduring it. You're a man if you endure this.
Exactly. It'll make you stronger. It'll make you into a man. It will make you, it will stand you in good stead, and that's what we're made to believe. And if you did tell a teacher, if you did tell the headmaster, if you did tell your mum or your dad, then you get it worse.
And how did you get access to alcohol? Was it widely available in the school?
Very easy, yeah. I mean, it's probably even today, but you could just ask someone outside a shop and ask them to get it for you, and they would go and get get you a shot. But my first drink ever was at the age of 11. It was a 3/4 of a litre bottle of vodka. And
3/4 of a litre of bottle of vodka at 11 years old?
11 years old. It was my first ever drink. The day before I experienced some pretty hardcore abuse, which I won't go into. I mean, it's on the TED Talk. It's in my book. I've got a book out as well. It's, it goes into graphic details on some of the stuff that I endured. And I must have drank that bottle, bearing in mind it's my first drink and I'm only 11 years old. I must have drank that about 10, 15 gulps. I was paralytic. I was unconscious for 9.5 hours. I was taken to Aldershot Hospital. It was my first stomach pump of 2. And the headmaster said to me, "You don't want your parents to find out, do you?" So I said no. Obviously later on in life we realised that the school might have been under investigation, or they would have taken me out, and they can't lose that kind of money being a private boarding school. So you work this kind of stuff out later on in adult life. But yeah, so that was my first ever drink, and that became a habit from every week, and then it escalated into adult life.
Okay, so were you able to kind of maintain a regular life as you're going through this addiction in terms of getting an education, getting a job? Were you going through the motions of doing that as well?
Not so much education, because they were quite crucial years, and for me those years in particular was about survival. In addition to everything else, there's a lot of racism in that school as well. It was predominantly white boarding school, and I was one of very few non-Caucasian kids in the school. So my name wasn't my name; it was a racial name, literally every day.
Really?
Yeah. And so education was secondary for me. It was just to survive the environment that I was in, because being from a South Asian background, and anyone from India or Pakistan. And the children are sent to boarding school. It's quite a prestige thing. Like, my parents thought it was quite prestigious. It was credible. It was people looked at them in a different light, but they didn't know what was going on in that school. I mean, they'd see bruises on my arms every time they came to see me, and I would just put it down to rugby. I couldn't tell them the truth. One, because it was we were brainwashed not to, and two, we were made to look weak if we did tell anyone about what we were going through. So we just kept our mouth shut. So the only thing that got me through that was alcohol, and that's what got me through everything in life thereafter. And obviously that escalated to drugs and other stuff.
How did it affect your family? Like, I mean, how bad did this get for them to realise, okay, Saf has a problem?
Yeah, so it's I've had 2 stomach pumps. I've overdosed 3 times. Flatline once for a few seconds, in and out of the criminal justice system, robbed my family.
You robbed your family?
I robbed my family. I staged a break-in in my own house and sold...
What, as in with the house, with your wife and kids?
My wife and kids. That's where it took me. I mean, crystal meth just took over my life. Cocaine took over my life. Alcohol took over my life. And to fund my habit and to fund that whole lifestyle, I had to do what I had to do to get it. And after I wasted my children's savings, my wife's gold was the next thing, and I robbed all her wedding gold, and I sold it to feed my habit. That's how low I was. That's how entrapped and ensnared I was in addiction. As I say, in and out of the criminal justice system on a regular basis. I mean, I destroyed everyone. My last use up was 2016. This is my 9th year in recovery, and that last 2 weeks of me using, I'd been arrested twice, once in Germany, did the robbing, got into a serious altercation with someone on the street. I still didn't think I had a problem. This is the madness about it. I never felt I had an issue. And I remember coming back from Germany. I was an asset manager at that time, because I was earning good money, but that money was being spent on this lifestyle. And I got fired on the journey back, which is probably the best thing that happened to me. And my daughter had booked me in to see a rehab place the Monday after. And I just went. I had no intention to stop what I was doing, didn't feel I had a problem. And I remember walking up the stairs, and in my mind, I'm going to call the dealer, on the way down and carrying on my lifestyle, just keeping them sweet, flying the flag. And I went upstairs and I sat in the room.
It's Rena Annabelle here, and my guest in the studio is psychotherapist and TEDx speaker Saf Buxy. Now, you've told me some of your story, Saf, which is truly shocking. You know, we've talking about you leading a double life, and in fact, it wasn't even a double life; it was more than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's more than a double life. It's triple life, quadruple life. There's so many different groups of people, and obviously family is one group, and work colleagues was another group, and my friends were another group. They only knew to a certain point. Family may have thought, you know, he likes your drink. They didn't know about the cocaine and the crystal meth that I was doing. The friends thought, oh, he does a line now and again, has a few drinks, maybe smokes a bit of weed. But when the night had come to an end, they thought I was going home. That's when my night started. Work colleagues had no idea. Some of them may have. And then the dark life, the dark side, you know, it would all start off so beautiful, but it would always end up in the gutter. And I'd be broken. I'd be like a tramp on the streets. It's the transformation from the beginning of a night to the end of the session, if you like, and that could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days plus.
And then your family didn't see you for this time?
My phone would be off. They would be worried about me. Police would be called. They'd be calling all my friends. I caused havoc to my family. They didn't know if I was alive or if I was dead. They had no idea.
And your family have stuck by you, though, through all this?
Yeah. I just feel so blessed and so grateful, and just yeah, they did, and I'm just so thankful for that.
I mean, you said it was your daughter that wanted you to kind of get help, and you ended up, even though you had no intention, you ended up, then that was the turning point. What did it take for you to kick the habit? Because it's been, nearly 10 years now?
Well, it's my 9th year, so yeah, so as I said, I had no intention to stop. But, you know, call it a spiritual awakening, call it something, call it totally being broken. I just stopped. And, of course, the withdrawals were quite bad.
Did you have to stay in a facility for a while?
Well, this is it. I had my name down for a facility. We would have paid private, but we thought we'd try outpatient first, and my name was down. And it's funny because I embraced recovery like I've never embraced anything in my life, and I just took it with open arms, and I got myself every day I was going to this facility, outpatient facility, every day, learning, detoxing, being around like-minded people, and really, you know, really embracing it. And then eventually, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 months or even 3 months later, a bed had come available for me. And I turned it down because I felt that someone else needed it more than I did, because I felt that I was on the right track, which I was. So when the bed eventually did come my way, I said, let this other person have it, because they needed it more than I did. So the opportunity did have come for me to go for inpatient rehab, but I didn't choose to do that.
I mean, throughout that journey and you learning and finding, you know, a different way to exist, did temptation to slip back into old habits ever go away during that time? Like, how long did it take to go away, and is it still a constant struggle?
It's a challenge every day. It's a challenge every day. I'm not tempted anymore. I'm not triggered, but it's a challenge every day. I guess probably more so with alcohol, because it's so readily available.
The culture,
exactly,
it's part of the culture, right? Celebrate, have a drink. You know, we feel sad, have a drink.
Exactly,
it's quite normalised.
Exactly that. And I went to a funeral not so long ago, and I chose not to go to the wake, because not because I'd be triggered or I'd want to have a drink. I just feel uncomfortable in these places, really. I'm in a good place. I'm in a very spiritual, fit condition today, 9 years down the line, and the tools that I use and that I help my clients with, and the Drug Free World campaign that I'm a big advocate for. I do practice what I preach, and I do use my own tools on myself as well. So I'm in a condition where I feel quite strong spiritually, and I never be complacent, because complacency is a killer. But I know what to do if I feel uncomfortable. And the first thing is not to just to get away. I leave the place. I don't really like it. I'll never stop anyone from drinking or taking drugs, but it's something that I choose not to be around anymore, because I was around it for 33 years.
Yeah. Now, that decision to become a psychotherapist, is this after you got clean and sober? Did you make that decision?
I first qualified as a counsellor in the year 2000, so 25 years ago. Obviously, I was in the midst of my addiction, and the two didn't really go hand in hand. And for me, was making money. I would have to have studied a lot more to make any kind of money that I wanted at that time. So I didn't pursue the career, even though I was qualified. So I had the qualification, but I never really. I worked a little bit, but my addiction took over, and of course they didn't go hand in hand. So in recovery, apart from volunteering in addiction services and working with mental health, I started studying again, and I got a master's in addiction psychology, and I studied at UCL and really furthered my knowledge. And I was trained under Dr. Gabor Mate and TJ Woodward. Did a lot of work with Bruce Alexander. So I did a lot of work with some pioneers in addiction. Had my own radio show as well called Saf Surgery, which is all part of my recovery, really. I did a show on Sky TV, which was great, a 13-week show called Men's Talk. I worked in the prison service, and I worked my way up in mental health and addiction services. And of course, so I not only do I have my academic qualifications and my professional work, I also came from a personal perspective as well, and I put them all together, and now I have my own private practice in Mayfair, where I help a lot of people, not just in addiction, mental health as well, but a lot of our South Asians as well, because there's a big taboo, like it was for me. It's a big problem in the UK. It's a big problem in London, not just with the South Asian culture, but I do work with a lot of them because I'm from South Asian origin myself, but I work with anyone and everyone who needs help with addiction, because not only have I been there, I can now also come from the professional and the vocational perspective as well. So it's I bring a whole package, and people can relate to me. I'm not just a textbook. I'm someone who knows. Yeah.
And you do a lot of campaigning now and charity work. And tell me about the Drug Free World event that you organised in Maidstone, because it was a little bit earlier this year, wasn't it?
Yeah. We've done two now in Maidstone. We've had to do at least one every 6 weeks, hopefully. Drug Free World campaign is a global initiative. It's aimed at educating individuals, particularly young people, but it's everyone really, and we educate them about the dangers of drug abuse. And the campaign is led by a foundation called the Drug Free World, a fantastic global organisation. They do work all over on the streets. They do work in schools, with the police, with anywhere there's a problem and that we can help. And it's just to provide factual information and to educate about the harmful effects of street drugs in particular, and the truth about drugs. That's the name of the main book, and it covers substances from cocaine, heroin, crystal meth, and the like, and sometimes prescription drugs as well, but it's mainly for the street drugs, because people abuse prescription drugs as well. There's a massive market of that as well, and I've helped people with that as clients as well. So I do a lot of community outreach, do a lot of work in academic institutions as well, to help reduce drug use, and hopefully stop it, and hopefully aim for a drug-free world, because drugs and crime go hand in hand. And I'm also a big part of a campaign called The Way to Happiness, which is the book that I've got given to yourself there, and it's a book that we provide to as many people as possible. It's through my foundation that I'm collaborating with them, called Help Us Help, and Drug Free World and The Way to Happiness, to help us make our community safer, and these are the things that we try and do, and this is a way to ethical living. It contains 21 precepts, like take care of yourself, set a good example.
I can see about family in here as well.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, both campaigns that they focus on uplifting society by promoting education and personal responsibility, and it's something that's very close to my heart. And as I say, I've been there, and I know where it can take you. And it's took me to some very, very dark places. And I know people who are suffering addicts today who need help. And I was fortunate and blessed to have had the support, because you can't do this on your own. And if I can help people through the Drug Free World campaign, through the Way to Happiness campaign, through my own organisation, Help Us Help Foundation, I will do that.
Saf, I really appreciate you coming in today and sharing your story with me. And it's just been fascinating listening to you, fascinating and shocking. But, you know, the fact that you've turned your life around, I think, is inspirational to many people. So thank you so much for coming in and sharing with me today. That was psychotherapist Saf Buxy telling me about his battle with addiction, how he survived years of abuse. And if you were affected by any of the issues that Saf spoke about, then please go and have a look at BBC Action Line, bbc.co.uk/Action Line, where you can find lots of information and support. This is Rahat Fateh Ali Khan with Aure Piya.